Good morning, my subscribe. What morning? I think I'm. Good afternoon. It is 2:56, 57 on January the 20th. I believe this is a day, if I got it right, that my aunt, Bishop Mingo, died. Let's talk about her for a little bit. This is a good chat. A good thing to talk about because I haven't talked about her in a while. Please excuse my looks. I slept in today, big time. I just got more so underneath the covers, and y'all see I'm right by the window, so I get some phenomenal air, sometimes too much air. And I ain't too long got up. I did my prayer and I fell asleep down there on my knees for about 45 to an hour. Because when I looked up, it was like, when I got up, it was like 1:14. I think I got down like, I don't know what time I got down. I did pray though. I did pray. So I got up and I read my scripture. Usually I put y'all in with my scripture. But I was lazy. I did not feel like I wasn't in the bed. I was sitting at my little nightstand here table. And I did not feel like getting up to get my phone. So the scripture that I read was Song of Solomon 1, I believe. Let me see. Song of Solomon, or actually it was Song of Solomon 4, 1 through 16. They got 16 verses, 1 through 16. And that scripture had me going. I have heard preachers say, you know me, I got to put my eyebrows on, right? Because I don't want to be scaring nobody. And just like I said, people on YouTube can be cruel. That's their entitlements. It don't really faze me, but my Bible say, meat offend thy brother, don't eat it. So if my looks offend you, then I'm going to try my best to what I can do, that I know I can do, to keep y'all looking in my channel or looking at this video. I'm putting some eyebrows. I just need something to definish my face. Make it look like I got something. Even though I don't got none. I can't even tell y'all. Like I could tell y'all about the teeth and tell y'all to take care of your teeth. But even in that aspect, I guess you can take care of them and you cannot get dentures, could not lose them. And then you could take care of them and still lose them. With that being said, anybody that wear dentures that come across this video and it didn't have nothing to do with you not taking care of them, are they just rotting out your mouth because you didn't take care of them, then comment below. Just whatever you choose to say, but you don't have to tell your story if you don't choose to, And if you have a channel and you got a link to yourself wearing dentures and your story about it, please put it in your comments so I can link on it. And please like and subscribe to this channel. And put your link to your channel so I can subscribe to y'all. And together, we accomplish more. So with that being said, this is not a teeth video. This is my aunt's video. So, this lady I'm talking about, y'all probably heard me talk a lot about a Bishop Mingo. Me being raised up by her and her sister, which was my grandmother. This morning I'm eating, this morning, I keep saying this morning, this afternoon I'm eating me some leftover Chinese food, some spare ribs, long spare ribs, with some white rice. So, this is the day, January 20th, I believe it was 1989. Let me see. I think it's 89. I think it was 89. It wasn't 90. It had to be either 88 or 89. But I believe it was 89 that my aunt died. I don't know what she died of. The little stories that I hear, or the rumors that I hear, is that she had a stomach condition. But that's neither here nor there. Because I don't know what took her out of here. All I know is that her time was, I presume her time was up. And her father said, come on home. You did enough work down here. So her name was Evadna Mae Mingo. Right? She was the eldest of one girl. The eldest of two girls, and put it that way. Her mother name was Pet Glover, which was my great-grandmother. And she was a Cherokee Indian. When she died at the age of 90. 90. And she had long silver hair. You know, maybe people do grow, get old, and have silver hair compared to gray hair. My hair was like snow white silver, like that. Like, well, yeah, what I remember was silver hair. And before she died, I want to tell you a little history, you know, getting up to the life of her daughter, my aunt, Evadna Mae. So before she died, I remember being there. And you know how Jesus had his favorite disciples, Peter, James, and John? Well, she had her favorite daughter, which is my grandmother. I think every mother has that, because I have my favorite daughter too. And it does not take away from the love that we have for all of them. See, that's the gift that a parent has. If they are a true parent. I understand what I'm saying, and I ask no mothers to take it defensively. What I mean by a true parent, that some mothers don't really understand how to share their love around or their children, and kind of like show where all the love is going to, which child is getting all the love, and then the rest of the children become rebellious and want to fight. You know, a lot of chaos going on with the family. They grow up and feel like the mother never loved them. So that's what I mean when I say that a parent being gifted enough under the guidance of the Lord, the Holy Ghost, to be able to even out their love, right? Know how to even it out among all the children, but yet and still have one that she favors, okay? So that was my grandmother. And my aunt, there was never no animosity that I saw, because they was like two peas in a pod. Where Evadna Mae went, my grandmother went, and where my grandmother went, I went. So I learned the fundamentals of a missionary at an early age. I learned how to go to the hospital and visit people at a young age. And when I say young, I mean between 7 and 14 years of age. You see what I'm saying? So, I remember being in the house. My Evadna May, I'm going to say my aunt. So remember when I say aunt, that's Bishop Mingo. So even if I say Bishop Mingo, I don't want to too much use her name, Evadna May. I want to give her props based on the life that she lived. She was a bishop, okay? And not by choice. So I don't want nobody to say, oh, women ain't supposed to be no bishop. Why she was a bishop? Who she think? No, whatever. People have all types of thoughts. So she was not a bishop by choice. She did not want to be a bishop. But whoever was in leadership at the time, however it was, whoever she was interacting with, boom, 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 wanted her to be a bishop because she must have had like 2 or 3 churches, right? So with that being said, I want to, since this is her day, I want to acknowledge her and let y'all know her for who she is, who she was, which was Bishop Mingo. Bishop E.M. Mingo, which stand for Evadna May Mingo. So, okay. So, she was in the kitchen. Bishop Mingo was in the kitchen. And my grandmother was in there taking care of her mother, right? She took care of her to the last. Sometimes we would just get in the house, right? From church, right? Most of the time, when we would come out of church, my grandmother would go straight to her mother's house because her mother and Bishop Mingo lived together. So that'd be her sister and her mother lived together. So now, this particular night, not this particular night. I'm just going to say this night because the particular night is when she left the world. So I'm just going to say this night, we had just got in the house, and one of those nights where we just get in the house and, I'm exhausted and stuff like that. It takes a toll on a little girl. I want y'all to know, And, but it wasn't no hard feelings with me. That was my great grandmother. So now she is being told that she's needed back at the house. Now, believe it or not, where we're living at right now, we would have been about 1, 2, maybe about 6 to 8, could be 10, give or take, blocks from where they were living. Because they was living on Lewis Avenue between Hart and Pulaski. And we ain't nowhere from there, right? So but at that time, we lived where did we live? I think we lived in Williamsburg. Yeah, we lived in Williamsburg. So that's not really too far, but not too much walking distance unless you just like to walk. But anyway, we got ourselves together. My grandma said, all right, Sharon, we got to go back to Mama's house. Get back up. Got myself together. And we get over to the house. When we get there, we wind up staying. What will happen is that, I'm trying to think if my grandmother would stay on weekdays. Because she's the one that, me being in high school, I go to school by myself. Well, I don't remember being in high school going to a house. But anyway, we're going to leave school out of it. We went there and we stayed. The only reason why I thought about school was because we stayed to the next day. And I can't remember whether I went to school or not, so there was no school. Could have been summertime. So anyway, I'm over here, because I was right up under my grandmother. I was like a backbone. I'm telling you. See? She was my pride and joy. She was my hope for tomorrow. She was my love and peace. She was everything to me. Right? So I was right there with her. She was in the room with her mother, and I was in the room with her dude. Maybe it was like Elisha and Elijah. Once Elijah was taken up, he got the mantle. So I probably got some, if not all, of my grandmother's helping gift. And that's another story, because I had a dream in that perspective of me in a room. Let me throw this in right quick. Of me in, seemed to be the morgue. And there was nothing around me. I seemed to be in the room. I mean, there was no dead people, so I don't know why I thought it was a morgue. But it was just like, I'm lying there like I was dead. And then I sat up. And when I sat up, it seemed like there was something going on with my stomach or whatever. And then whatever was done, they did what they did. They made me well. And I got up, and when I sat up, I was in this room, dark, nothing is there. And when I looked down, there was my grandmother's slippers. And I see myself in the dream putting my feet into her shoes. So I'm saying, I'm walking her life. Her spirit is in within me. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm in the room with them, and I hear my great grandmother saying something to my grandmother, and she's like, "What you want, mommy?" And then I hear her say, "Oh, you want your hair washed?" And she's like, "Yeah." So by now, my great grandmother, her name was Pet, like you got a pet. Her name was Pet. So, but we never called her. I didn't even call her Aunt Pet. It was Grandma. I guess those that was nieces and nephews call her aunt, but I called her who she was to me, my grandmother. So, because some people call her Granny. Some of the family members call her Granny, but I call her Grandma. And so, my grandmother was like, "Oh, you want your hair washed?" She said, "Yes, I do." She said, "You want me to bring the basin and put your head in?" She said, "No, I want to go to the sink." And she was very tall. She had to be about, I don't want to say 7. I'm not good with numbers. So maybe she was about 6'9". She was a tall woman. She's very tall. Tall and slingy. So I was told that I got my slinky body from her. Like I guess my high torso and my long, I don't really have long legs. I'm short. I'm short in stature, but I don't think my legs are short because they don't look like it. But anyway, I think I kind of like, not me thinking too much, this is what I was told, that my length. And then my mother was also tall. I think she was about the same height, you know. So tallness ran in the family, right? So and my mother is not even in the Glover family. She's a totally different family, right? But her family was tall, right? And her mother was short like me. Her mother wasn't that much. Her mother was taller than me, but not taller like 5. I'm 5. So she wasn't taller like 6. She was 5 in her 5s. My grandmother, which is on my father's side, this is the same story I'm telling you, the grandmother that raised me, she was 4'11". And my daughter, Mary, is 4'11". Isn't that something, right? So anyway, so that's enough with the heights, right? Okay. So she goes, and my grandmother helps my grandmother out the bed. I can't too much say she got skinny or whatever. She looked the same to me up until the day she died. You know how some people get sick and they lose a whole lot of weight, but she just looked the same. I believe she died from old age. I don't recall her having no sickness. To be honest, not that we didn't believe in doctors. I don't know. Maybe they didn't believe in doctors. We never went to one. Never went to a doctor. So I never been in the doctor's office with her. I've been in the doctor's office with my grandmother, but not taking her to the doctor. It was after the fact of her being sick, and the doctor had to step in and stuff. She had to go to the hospital and stuff like that. But as far as like me driving her to the doctor or her telling me I got to go to the doctor. Oh, wait, maybe that was a situation with Pastor Glover. Because Pastor Glover didn't want to go to the doctor. Like, towards her ending of her transitioning over, she didn't want to go. And who was that? Somebody, somebody said to me, if it was your mother, you would have took her to the hospital. Anyway, let's not get into that. That's another story. I'm just thinking about that because I think because I know I had the fear. I think there may have been fear going on with the saints in the church. I'm talking about the earlier saints in reference to going to doctors. And I'm also thinking, being that the way my grandmother, which is her mother, that I'm talking about now, that she's taking care of, and my aunt, which is Bishop Mingo, they didn't know nothing about doctors. They didn't have the privilege for a doctor to come and take care of them. So if anything went down in their house, it was their mother that took care of them. There was remedies. But my grandmother lived off of old remedies. I'm telling you. My grandmother could stack up some stuff, go get some teas and draw them up. And I'm telling you, you was healed. You was ready to go. Like as if you went to the doctor and took some medicine. So her remedies would work. And my aunt was so in touch with the Lord, and I'm not trying to make her bigger or better than anyone else. I'm telling my story, okay? She was so in touch with the Lord that any ailments that came in the church, she would tell the people what to do. The Lord would tell her, because we would go to her. People would go to her and say, I'm going with something happening with me and da-da-da-da-da. And she would like, all right, I'll let you know what to do, or call me or whatever, come to the house or whatever. And so it's thinking on my nerve. And she would, she'll tell them what to do. So my grandmother would go, and I was right with her. She would go to they don't even have it no more. They had a health store on Willoughby between J Street. I don't know what that street was. I don't know. But that street, right before you get to J Street, there's a street right there. Right? And the long street is Willoughby. There was a health store, and my grandmother would go to that store. And when I got old enough to live on my own and had my own place and had my own kids, I went to that store too. She had a book that was called Back to Eden. Anything you wanted to find that was going on in your body, you look at that book and it'll tell you what to do. And I lived by that book. Hold up. Actually, I got a little cough here. Oh, sassafras tea. And the whole lemon tea. All right. Get my tail on the bus and go to the store and ask them, and they'll take me right on. That place ain't there no more. But anyway, so she wanted to wash her hair, right? Ooh. She wanted to wash her hair. And this thing is hot, but I can't take it off because I ain't got nothing else on. Okay, anyway. So went on, and she helped her up and into the bathroom, because the bathroom was right by the bed. And she washed that lady hair. She washed her mother's hair. That hair was so long. And she kept asking her, Mom, you all right? Your neck hurts? She's like, mm-mm. She washed that lady hair clean, dried it. And you know how us black folks, when our hair get wet and puff up, we got this stupid afro going on. Her hair came down slick. Tell you, she's a Cherokee Indian, so she had Indian hair. So she dried off the hair and everything. And I'm sweating on this thing. Can't get too excited because my sweat pores come out. So she put her back in the bed, right? Boom, 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 went on. So then a few days after that, I had a dream, right? It could have been a few days. I'm saying a few days. It could have been months. Could have been a year. But when she got sick, it wasn't like she was sick for months. You see what I'm saying? She got sick, and then she died, right? And just like I said, it wasn't like no sickness. It was like old age. She died from old age. She didn't die from no sickness. Nothing was wrong with her. She wasn't coughing up her lungs. Her hair didn't fall out, as I'm telling you. She died from old age. So I say she got sick. She didn't get sick. She just got to the bed. I don't even know what you call it. She just got to the bed and she couldn't get up and walk around anymore. And so she stayed in the bed. You know, she couldn't really, she got more weak. Let's put it that way. She got weak. And so that's where my grandmother was more active there, because she would go and she would have to feed her, because my aunt, Bishop Mingo, that wasn't her thing. Now I want you to understand what I'm saying. Somebody probably would say, but that was her mother. She wasn't taking her mother. Why she ain't help her sister? Everybody got their job. Okay? Every child was born into a family for a reason. If it was just to be a bum, if it was just to take that parent through so much trouble, if it was just to be a thief, if it was just to go to jail, or if it was just to be saved, to go to heaven. See, we don't know. Only God knows why we get children. Only God knows why some parents, some mothers have children and some mothers don't. Only God knows why some mothers have 5 boys and no girls. Only God knows why some mothers have 6 girls and 1 boy. Only God knows. It doesn't have nothing to do with us as individuals. You know, our DNA is there. The genes is in there. They kind of make a lead way or understanding of children. But then you get them children where you be like, I don't know who they take it after, because it ain't me. So, you know, we don't have control over the children that we bring into this world. We just bring them into the world. So she had, my aunt was not into that. If something was going down, first of all, grandma would only call for mommy. Her name was Doris. She would only call Doris. My aunt could be right there sitting in the room with her. And she'll be like, where Doris? Tell Doris to come here. And when my grandmother get in there, she'll tell her what she want, and then mommy will go get it. My aunt was well aware of that. And if she was sitting in the room with her, and she said, I'll go get Doris now. But she called. There was a sister there. Sister. Yeah, I think my grandmother's pet name was Sister. Because I think, yeah, because my aunt will call her sister. Wow, that's interesting, right? Because they were sisters. And I would hear my great-grandmother call her. I never really heard, now I'm thinking about it, I never really heard her call her Doris. Sister. She'd be like, sister. It took me a while to get, to get used to that. I mean, of course, growing up with it, I used to be like, why she call you sister? And it was that we all had pet names. So anyway, so she washed her hair. So now let me tell you about this dream. So whenever it was, I was with my grandmother. I was young. I was maybe I was about 13. I could have been 12. So much happened to me when I was 12. 12 was a year I will never forget. Yet and still, I don't remember everything about it. But that was the year I first got saved and filled with the Holy Ghost. And got to experience salvation in the reality. In its reality, and put it that way. So, in the dream, I was underneath a staircase. It was about 4 steps. And you know how these actually the new buildings that's built today, that's the type of building I was in, but underneath the steps. And above the steps seemed to be my great-grandmother's room, her bed, or however it was. And I was underneath there. I don't know, maybe I was hiding out. You know how kids play hide and go seek and hide and stuff. So in the dream, that's what I was doing. So while I'm sitting there, sitting underneath them steps, listening to my great-grandmother. Bishop Anderson, I don't think I ever told this dream to them anyway. I think I told it to my no, I didn't even tell it to my grandmother, because after all, I was dreaming about her mother. So why would I tell her that dream? But I probably told it to her afterwards. I don't know, I can't remember. But anyway, whew. So Bishop Anderson was in the room with Grandma, right? And Grandma was saying something, and he was like, huh? What you said, Grandma? And she said, I'm gonna die. And when I'm underneath the steps, I'm like, but underneath the steps, I'm hearing this. But, you know, dreams be like, this is just my thought. Dreams be like a metaphor. Like, it's not really that per se. So I'm in the dream, and that's what I'm thinking. Oh, she's not really going to die. She's just talking. So she said, I'm going to die. And Bishop Anderson said, oh, come on. You ain't going nowhere. You going to live some more years. She said, no, I'm going to die. And he went, I think he went out the room and started crying, or somebody in the room, not in the room, but in the house is the room that my great-grandmother was in. Then you would come out, it's like a little foyer, and that's where the bathroom is. And then you would turn, because there's a long wall, and that wall goes all the way into their bedroom, and that's the wall that they got their dress up against. So coming down, it cuts a little bit, and then you would turn, and then when you turn, that's the other part of the house. So you got the living room, so it was a 1-bedroom apartment, and you got the living room, and then the dining areas within the kitchen, and then you got the kitchen, right? So, and then the living room was pretty big, very big. You had a little area where you could sit down. She had a piano in it. It was the projects, but, you know, that was the first time I was introduced to the projects, because we ain't living no projects, right? So, well, I guess Williamsburg was a project, right? Williamsburg project, yeah, it was. So I did live in, but it wasn't a big one. It was only like 4 floors, right? Great-grandmother's projects, it must have had like 20 floors in it. Okay, so with that being said, so she was like, no, I'm gonna die. So Bishop Anderson, at that time, he was Brother Anderson. He could have been deacon. And, yeah, I think by then he was a deacon. So he was like, oh, Grandma, come on, you ain't dying, right? So boom, boom, boom. Ain't think nothing else about it, right? So now, this day, now we get into the day and a particular day. So this is another day. We at her house, and I'm in the room, right? I'm still living with my grandmother. Was I living with my grandmother? I'm trying to think. She died after I was married, so no, I'm not living with my grandmother. Oh, I'm thinking about Gaga. No, I'm living with my grandmother, right? Because Gaga died not in the same house, but yeah, the same house. Yeah, same house. Because she didn't die in no hospital. Because I think that her daughter, Evangelist Giles, asked her, do you want to go to the hospital, Mama? And I recall her saying, no, I think, whatever. I don't know. Those are stories that's in the back of my head as a memory, and they slowly coming up, so just bear with me. So now, we at the house with great-grandma, right? My grandmother's there. I think from church, they came, Bishop Anderson, and everybody came to the church, right? Elder Robinson was there too. So now, he's standing in the room. I'm not sure if I was in the room with him or whether I think we were. Yeah, we all was in the room over her, right? Because this is a church here. So I'm in church, so yeah, I came along with them. Or I was there already, something like that, right? So he comes in and he say, "Hey, Grandma, how you doing?" And she's like, she was very coherent. She knew where she was. She knew what was going on. She knew who it was when they came to visit her. She had her mind to the day she closed her eyes and took her last breath. So this is why I know that God will keep your mind in perfect peace. He'll keep you in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on. So he'll keep you. Anyway, we ain't gonna go there because y'all know me. So now he's there, he's talking to her, and then she comes out and tells him. She's saying something. He said, "What?" He said, "What you say, Granny?" She said, "I'm gonna die." Boom! That bad boy slapped me in my face. Like a deja vu. I was like, what? I'm like, I'm looking at her. And he said, he said, "Oh, come on. No, you're not." Boom, another slap. Deja vu twice. I was like, what is going on? How the crazy? I'm bugging out. I'm about 13 years old, bugging out like, how the crazy? A dream I had 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, I can't remember how long ago, what? Is coming out, like coming to pass. I didn't even know to use the word coming to pass. I was using, it's coming like this. How it's going to be like this? And then she says it again. She says, just like in the dream. She said, "No, I'm going to die." And he was like, And then my cousin, she runs out of the room and she goes in the kitchen and put her head down and starts crying. My grandmother, which is her daughter, Doris, comes running in because she don't know what's happening. So now when my cousin go and cry, it kind of like bugged me out. Because that's how it was in the dream. But I think it was Bishop Anderson that went and cried. Or maybe it was somebody in the dream, I didn't know who it was. But the whole thing was that the dream lived out, came to life in front of my eyes. Just how it went down, just what my grandmother said. She said, just what Bishop Anderson, Deacon Anderson said in the dream, he said. Then she came back and said, "No, I am going to die." She said, and just like he said, and then I heard somebody just buzz in the dream. And that's just how my cousin started crying. My aunt, Bishop Anderson, asked my cousin, "What's going on? What's going on?" My grandmother didn't even ask what was going on. She just left out and came running in the room. And she went to her mother and said, "Mom, what's wrong? You all right?" And then she just said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And so she looked up at Bishop Anderson, like he, looked up at Brother Anderson, Deacon Anderson. And said, "Oh, she just was telling us something." I said, "What she told you?" My grandma was like, "What she told you?" Like, don't be hiding nothing from me. This is my mother. She took charge. What she say? No, she just was saying that she was going to die. So she turned around and looked at her mother. She said, "Mom." She said, "Don't talk like that." And she started, fixing the covers and stuff like that. "Don't talk like that. You're not leaving me. You won't be here." Right? So we all there in the room. Could be the same day, could not be the same day. But we all in the room. And I remember being in there. I don't know whether anybody else was in there with me. And I remember her saying, she stopped. She was lying on a pillow. And she stopped. And so he's like, you all right? And God was like, you all right? Bishop Mingo was like, she said, move the pillow. So I see everybody looking like, and I'm saying to myself, why are you looking like that? All she did was say, move the pillow. I didn't realize that was her last words. And everybody knew that she's about to leave out of here. But you know me, I'm 11, 12, 13 years old. I don't know about all that. I ain't never been around nobody that died. She was the first. And so she said, move the pillow. So they moved the pillow. Say, you want us to move the pillow, mommy? Yes, move the pillow. So she took the pillow off. I think it was her daughter, my grandmother. And so she lied flat down. And then she was just lying there. And I think it was either my grandmother or Bishop Mingo that said, it won't be long now. And Bishop Anderson was like, no, it ain't going to be long. And I stayed in there. People was leaving and coming back, but I stayed in there, right? I tried my best to stay, but I said, I'm not moving. I'm going to stay right here until she leave this world. I ain't moving. So she said, there was a moment there where she said, because she had gotten to quietness then. And she had gotten to where she just was quiet, her eyes was closed. And every now and then my grandmother would come in and call her Gaga. I call her Gaga, that was her name. Bishop Mingo would come in and say, Mama? And then she'd be like, huh? She'd be like, she would open up her eyes, and then as time went on and they would call her, she wouldn't open up her eyes. She would answer though. She would be like, Say, you okay? She'd be like, And then during that time I was in there and I heard her, she said, so everybody was like, what? She said, shh. I said, what? Said, you don't hear that? So we like, no. And I'm fascinated. I'm like, what's she here? I'm not, it's not, I don't even know how to say it, but I'm just putting it in a jokingly manner to maybe to get people to understand it a little bit better and not to let it be so sad, because it is a sad moment for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's she here? And I'm looking at everybody else in the room and they just nonchalant, like they here too. Even though they said no. I said, what you hear, Mama? She said, listen. She said, you don't hear them singing? So they knew how to deal with it because they conversated with her. They was like, who you hear singing? Somebody said, so you don't hear the angels singing? They singing. They singing for me. You know, me personally, I didn't think nothing was wrong with her. Maybe the other people, you know, thought something was wrong with her. You know, because Bishop Anderson was like, you know, he had that little laugh, like a smirk laugh, like she done lost her mind. But So then she's still quiet for some hours. And then again, it happened again. Because mind you, I was in there. My grandmother would have had to come. My grandmother at times had to come and get me out and say, Sharon, come and eat. And I wouldn't move. She'd send my cousin there. Sharon, Mommy said, come and eat. I wouldn't move. Mommy would have to come in and say, Sharon, she's not going nowhere. Come and eat. You got to eat something. Come on. She just had that little Susan voice, my grandmother. So I said, okay. So I would go there and I would eat. And I didn't realize I was eating in a hurry. And she was like, Sharon, take your time. Grandma ain't going nowhere. Take your time. You'll have plenty of time to go in there. Because I ain't want to miss nothing. I don't know what I thought I was going to miss, but I ain't want to miss nothing. I wanted to be there when my grandmother went, wherever she went, my great-grandmother. I wanted to be there. I don't know. Maybe I felt like Elisha with Elijah. I did not want to miss nothing. So I hurried and ate that food and went right back in that room and sat right back next to her. And then again, she said, listen. She said, do you all hear? And again, Bishop Anderson was there. I think Gaga was there. And it was kind of hard for Mommy. So Mommy wouldn't be in the room a lot. You know, so I guess maybe I was taking her plates because I was there. And sometimes when I would come out and I would go in the kitchen, she would ask me, she said, well, how's she doing? Everything. And I'd be like, you know, I didn't too much understood death at the time. I did not too much understood how people grieve, even way before that you do start grieving way before somebody dies. Your grieving process starts, whether it's a year before. It's like, especially if you're close to that person, you begin to feel them. You begin to feel what they're going through. And, you know, if they're going through a transition, you're going to feel it. You may not know what it is at the time, because when I'm thinking about it now, I was going through a transition with Pastor Glover. I didn't know she was dying, but God knew she was dying. That's why the Lord was bringing me closer to her in spirit. That's why he led me to pray for her in spirit. And I had to get up out of my bed and fall on my knees and cry and pray for her. I didn't know she was going through something. I didn't know that she was transitioning out of this world, transitioning out of this body into the spiritual body of transformation. I didn't know that. But God knew it. So my grandmother was feeling her mother leaving. Gaga was feeling it, but Gaga took it good. You know, Gaga took it very good. And maybe some people would say, oh, they wasn't that close. But Gaga and Grandma was very close. Grandma loved her children. And see, and there is a love that you have for your children that's love. And then there's a love that you have for your children that is closeness, is bondness. You see what I'm saying? So you would have a closeness and a bondness, maybe with one or two of your children, and a possibility all of them. You see what I'm saying? Depending on how that relationship is between that mother and those children. You see what I'm saying? So Gaga and Grandma had a closeness, but Mommy and Grandmother had a bond together. So where Gaga felt her, and being that Gaga was a spiritual leader, she knew that her mother was leaving. So she was already preparing herself for it. Whereas Mommy knew her mommy was leaving, but she wasn't prepared for it. She didn't want her to go. And who wants your mother to leave? Especially if you got a relationship with her and you love her to the fullest. You don't want her going nowhere, because all those traits is going to go with her. You ain't going to find another mother nowhere. You see what I'm saying? You have a good relationship with your mother and you love your mother. I mean, let me go on with my thought. You love your mother and your mother's everything to you, and you get word that she dying. That's a part of you leaving. And you see, this is where the heart comes in at. And you feel in your heart. This is why the words say he wants us to love God with all your heart. Because, see, that heart holds a whole lot of stuff. And when you love God with that heart, all that negative stuff is going to go. Because all you're going to have is God's heart. So a mother and a daughter have each other's heart. When that mother is carrying that child, there is a bond that goes through. I don't care after that child is born. I don't care if that mother take that child and throw out the window or give her for adoption. That bond is there because that's something that God has given that woman. So even if there's a mother that feels like that acts acts or put on the demeanor that, oh, I don't care nothing about my child, whatever, give me. That bond is there. That father ain't got that bond. That father develops that bond. But that bond is already planted in that mother from the very beginning. You see what I'm saying? So, mommy was feeling that thing. She was feeling it. So she stayed in the kitchen. She didn't do it. Only if grandma called her. Sometimes grandma turned her head to me and she said, where's sister? I said, all right, I'll go get her. And I'll go and I'll say, Mom, grandma wants you. And she'll come and she'll say, yes, I'm here. And she wouldn't say nothing. She said, sister? She said, yeah, I'm here. She'll take her mother hand and she'll hold her mother hand. And you can see grandma hand close up over hers. And I'll be like, oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then back to that moment where she said, listen. So I'm listening. I'm like this. I mean, I wish y'all could have saw me. I was down there like this. She said, y'all hear that? And I'm saying to myself, no, I don't hear nothing. What you hearing? I want to hear what you hearing, Grandma. What you hearing? She said, they calling my name. I mean, I tells you no lie. I was straining my ears. Short from putting my ear like this. Like, where the crazy she hearing that from? She said, they calling my name. She said, it's time for me to go. And I started crying and everything. And then I think I kind of like fell asleep. And somebody came and told me to go. No. I didn't fall asleep. I got sleepy. I mean, just all of a sudden, a whoosh of sleep hit me. And I felt myself going like this. Because I stayed in the room. I tells you no lie. When we had to leave to go home, I could not. I was so overly anxious. I could not rest. I couldn't do nothing. And my grandmother always said, Sharon, go to sleep. I'm going to wake you up. We going to grandma's house tomorrow. I'll be like, early? Yes, Sharon, we going early. Go to sleep. I get in the bed. I put the covers over my head. I'm like this, go to sleep. Because I always slept with the covers over my head. I don't know whether anybody back in the days remember the monsters that never exist, but the monsters that you think is in your room. The monsters that you think you hear it, that you ain't hearing nothing. Need to just take your little tail and sleep. That's what was going on with me. So I put the covers over and I'll be like, go to sleep. And I'll be wide awake underneath the covers. Finally, I would doze off. How I would know I went to sleep is when my grandmother would be like, Sharon! Yes, ma'am. Time to get up. Let's get ready. Let's go over to grandma's house. Oh, I jump about me. Man, I was excited for my grandma. I loved them old folks. I tell you no lie. Them old folks taught me some things. And I'm glad I stuck around them old folks because it got me to 62 years old. And if it's the Lord's will, can I get an amen? It's going to take me to 63. And on and on and on. So we get there. Right, we get there, whatever. I'm in the room all day with her. My grandmother have to keep coming, telling me come out. Sometime Gaga comes and Bishop Mingo come in there and says, Sharon, going out there and get you something to eat. I'm sitting here with her. And she would sit, whatever, and Gaga was one that went to sleep. That was her. She had something that was called dropsy, right? I kind of looked it up. And because I remember my grandmother telling me that. Because I don't know whether I asked my grandmother why Gaga sleep a lot. Or whether it was just something that my grandmother was telling me about her sister. Right, excuse me. So I looked it up and there was some type of, I don't want to say disease, but it was some type of ailment that was called dropsies. And they explained where it came from. But the symptoms was that a person could fall asleep at the drop of a hat. So they couldn't really drive. They couldn't work underneath no machinery or nothing like that because they wound up hurting themselves. So that's what Gaga had. So a lot of times when she was in there, I was going to say when she's supposed to, but I'm not going to say that. When she was in there, and I'd come back after I done eat and whatever mommy wanted me to do, wash the dishes, whatever. Tell mommy to sit down, I got this, whatever. And I would come back, Gaga would be asleep. And so I would go. And I would just sit down, I wouldn't bother her. Because whenever she be in the sleep like that, we learn, do not bother her. Because the Lord is speaking to her. So what God did, he said, what was bad for her and probably could have took her out of this world, or probably could have caused some kind of serious ailment with her, God flipped the strip and used it for his glory. So when she would fall asleep, because people used to talk about her, and I would get mad. Don't be talking about my family. I was telling myself, child, my grandmother would always say, Sharon, stop. Just leave it alone, Sharon. Just don't say nothing. See, that's why I didn't want to tell you nothing. That my grandmother would tell me that. Because if she ever told me anything when somebody did something to her or did something to Gaga, even Mother Giles or whatever, I would go in. But mainly her. Just throw this in one time. She told me one time, I'm going to tell the truth, because this is my video and this is my channel, right? She told me something that the people did to her in the church, right? And I said, what? I said, wait till I get to the church. She said, Sharon, don't you do that. I said, wait till I get to the church. I said, I ain't going to do nothing. Wait till I get to the church. So I went to church. I was living in the Bronx. I got on that train. I didn't care how long it took me to get there. I got there when the person was going up to preach. It made me no difference. No. I got there when they was getting ready to eat. And while I walk up in there, and everybody sitting down eating, and my grandmother not eating. See, them people was devious. So I walks in. I go over to, forget about praising the Lord, everybody. My grandmother sitting here without a plate in front of her. And she took care of her sisters to the T. She cooked the food for her sisters as well as for me and my family. Because she told me, she said, don't worry about the food, Sharon. You bring them children to church and you get to church. I'll feed y'all. And that's what she did. Up to where she couldn't do it no more. And up to where, let me put it like this, up to where I stopped coming. Because she will cook or die. Right? So she told me that. So I will come there with my children and she'll have the food done and cooked. And she will go and fix the plates. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's where I got where when I cook in my house, once the food is done, then somebody fix the plates. Nobody don't be all up in her pots. I couldn't be all up. She would fix the plates, put the plate on the table, and say, all right, Sharon, it's time for dinner, or time for lunch, or time for breakfast. You would think I would have been fat as Methuselah. Well, whoever that would have been, because Methuselah is slow, I think, right? But anyway, because she fed me 3 meals a day and then snacks in between along with ice cream. And sometimes the ice cream was made by Bishop Mingo. So now, I get to the church, and she's sitting up there looking kind of lost. So I went, I ain't pay everybody. I ain't pay him no mind, because why she ain't... So I went over to her. I gave her a kiss. I said, hey, Mommy, how you doing? She said, oh, Sharon, good to see you. I hugged you. I said, why you sitting up here with no plate? And then here goes somebody. Oh, Mother Wilson. I said, shut up. I said, sit down. I got this. I said, the nerve of y'all. I said, Mom, where your food at? Everybody want to be talking. I said, I do not want to hear nothing y'all got to say. Y'all hypocrites. Everybody got sounds so lame. Anybody that wanted to say something, they didn't. Because I was so upset, I would have took a rice pot and slapped it upside their head. How dare y'all sitting up here having a meal And this old woman sitting here with no food to eat. See, that's why they suffering. That's why they suffering. They may have forgot about how they treated Mother Wilson and the things that they may have done to Bishop Mingo. They done forgot all about that, but God didn't. And they wondering why this is happening, why that is happening, why am I sick, why I can't get healed, cause of what you did to Mother Wilson. And she was like, Sharon, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I said, no, mommy, I told you. I don't appreciate. And then once she told me that other thing, I can't remember what it was, I brought it up too. I said, y'all hypocrites. I said, let me come back here again. And y'all treat my grandmother wrong. Don't get it. At that time, the word was twisted. I said, don't get it twisted. Because y'all don't see me. I don't know what's happening. Don't get it twisted. I walk up in here and tear up this church. I'm laughing at it now. My grandmother was like, oh, Lord, Sharon. No, I'm telling you, nobody ain't say nothing. They better not have said something. Like, y'all better sit down with your hypocritical selves. And maybe that's the reason why I ain't listen to them. Not so much as remembering what they did, because I'm now remembering it now full force, but just how they are. You see what I'm saying? So I went and got the food, and then this lady comes in there. Now, I'm saying lady because I don't want to say names, right? Because I know people going to be watching this video, and they're going to run and tell it. So go ahead, run and tell it. I should mention the name. So, Lord have mercy. Let me stop. So, I went on. So this lady comes in the kitchen. And she started, I'm so sorry. I said, get out my face. Oh, such rudeness. Get out. Don't be talking to me about no rudeness. Get out. Don't be coming here talking about you sorry. You need to go tell it to her. Because she's the one that was sitting there waiting for y'all to get some food. Where's her food at anyway? Oh, we didn't know this was... Stop lying. What do you mean you didn't know that was her food? My grandmother had a Pacific bag that she put her food in. It wasn't these regular plates and all this. I'm saying plates. It wasn't these regular store bags. It was her own bag. She had a Pacific bag that she would put her food in. Oh wait, let me take my. No, I didn't take my blood pressure medicine. So let me just take this right quick. Let me pause this. I'll be right back.